Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. This is Neil and Greg. We are here going to be talking about staffing.
What are you
Uh,
looking at, Neil? You look like you're not interested in the broadcast.
well, as soon as I hit the live button, my cat has jumped into the sink and is now licking pots and pans. So I'm going to disappear for just a second while you introduce the live.
Okay, so I knew that's what was happening, so that's why I had to bring it up.
All right, that would be Joey.
Yeah,
We aptly named him Joey. He loves food.
from
He
Friends, Joey
Yeah,
from Friends.
he eats all kinds of food. So as soon as I hit live, I heard the pans in the sink moving around. This is not staged, as you can see, folks. This
Right,
is a
this
live
is
stream.
live.
Yep, I'm the only one home. I got two cats. One's running around like a madman. So it is what it is. Um, so we are here tonight. We're going to be talking about staffing, finding good staff, hiring good staff, things like that. As this starts to populate through, we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I wanted you guys to know that we finalized today a giveaway. You will not be able to register for the giveaway yet, but I want to give you a heads up about it so that next Wednesday, if you go to the YouTube channel, you will see a video from us talking about the giveaway. We're going to give away a copy of Greg's book, Fun at Work. We're going to give away a copy of a signed Profit First book by Mike Michalowicz.
Wait for it.
There you go. You can't have that personalized. Well, if you do, it's going to be Greg writing it in, not Mike. So it's up to you. You can get a personalized signed edition of Fun at Work if you'd like. You'll also get 2 free online courses with us: How to Control Your Income, which is done by me, and How to Sell Anything by Dr. Greg. And those are valued at $350. And you get a half an hour with us, or just him, or just me, whatever you prefer, to go over your business. So again, that'll be live on the YouTube channel next Wednesday. So that would be the 17th. That is when the giveaway is going to start, and we'll have all the details for you in there. But I wanted to get that out of the way while people were starting to show up, and et cetera, et cetera. So join us live every Monday, 7 p.m. We discuss all different types of business topics and subjects. And this week, you tell them what you got in store, Dad.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about hiring, and this is really by survey what I have found by my own personal survey. This is really the number one problem that owners and managers regularly encounter. There's always marketing will come up on a survey, sales will come up on a survey, organization will come up on a survey, but hiring, staffing, finding good employees that want to stay, all of that really gets bundled into a particular survey item that just has trouble, just like growing a team.
Yeah.
So it really is a big problem. And this goes, funnily enough, it goes all the way back into the 60s when I was working in my dad's restaurant. The employees were just always the number one headache of the owners, my dad and my uncle. And so there are definitely some basics that I talk about in my book. There are some basics that I have figured out. We have one of our mentoring clients who just coincidentally yesterday sent us this awesome, amazing, successful action that they have kind of figured out with our help. And we have some results that we're going to talk about here tonight. So just kind of the long and the short of it is that, yes, you cannot grow your company without marketing. You cannot grow your company without sales. But if you're not delivering what you're selling, if you're not delivering what you promise, then your company is going nowhere. You'll have upset customers. If you have employees that are churning out a bad product or a bad service, it'll kill your marketing. It'll kill your sales. It'll kill your online reputation. And so really, this is such a critical part of owning and expanding a business. I just can't emphasize it enough.
So
And
what I'm going to do here is I'm going to summarize your 2 minutes there about what we're talking about tonight by saying, what this is really about.
Yeah.
It's not a sexy topic, but it's an important topic.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's
I
the
mean, it's not
topic nobody
sexy
wants
like,
to hear about.
yeah, stuff like marketing, sales, the
Mhm.
next hot click funnel. But without people, you have no company.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the bottom line.
That's what we're talking about here tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So obviously, this is an important subject. Now, as Greg mentioned, we have multiple clients that are we're working with, and we've got some successful actions that we're going to be talking about with one of them here. But if you do want to work with us, we have a next round of our Adventure to Profit program, which is a training program that we are opening now for registration. So be sure you go to adventuretoprofit.com to apply to work with us. So you do a quick application, who you are, send us some information about you, your website. We do some research, make sure we're a good fit, and then we can let you sign up for the Adventure to Profit. So that one is just opening up now for registration. So be sure you go there today and get yourself registered for the next Adventure to Profit program.
Yes, we're having a great time with the clients on that program, that weekly program. By the way, you get to work with us every week.
Every week.
All right. So where do you want to begin with this, Neil?
Well, this is a little bit more your topic than my topic, I would say. You're definitely more of the hiring person.
That's where the gray hair came from.
That's where the gray hair came from.
Employees.
Just to put any doubts to rest, it was the employees. It wasn't me that brought about the gray hair. Because if I remember correctly, you already were going gray before I was born. So
that's true. That is true.
That's not
in
my
your
fault.
defense. But I got, for some strange coincidence, after you were born, I got gray faster.
Wait a minute. That's not been scientifically proven.
The number one huge mistake in this area has really nothing to do with hiring, and it has everything to do with firing. And so I guess it is related in a way, because what I have seen from, I don't know, I can't give you a percentage, but at least half the people that I've worked with over the last 30 years is they are hesitant to fire a poor staff member because they don't want to go through the hiring and the training process to replace them. And I just want to share with you something interesting that especially, I saw this routinely, especially with the dental offices that we have worked with for years, is during COVID, these practices had to close, except for emergency care. They could still be open to see emergency patients. And what's very interesting is that once those offices could open up again in 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, and the doctors that I know stayed open, they saw emergencies. I know many offices were open 7 days a week, at least for a few hours each day to process emergencies. And what's interesting is that those practices, when they reopened, they absolutely did not force any staff to come back. And so there were some staff that didn't want to come back. I don't know what percentage. It wasn't half of the staff. It was 10%, 20%. I don't think it was as much as 30%, but there was a fair percentage of the staff that didn't want to come back to work. And for whatever the reason, they just didn't want to come back to work. And so obviously they weren't forced to come back to work, etc. So the offices reopened without them. And in every single case, each office did more without them than they were doing with them. And in some cases, I'm talking 20, 30, 40% more.
Yeah.
So then that would, and maybe you can chip in on this one or chime in on this one a little bit, Neil. I'm kind of wondering then, the people who didn't come back, maybe there were some who were legitimately concerned about COVID, which is fair.
Totally fine.
I'm just wondering if the ones who use COVID as an excuse to come back that maybe didn't want to work, maybe that's a possibility.
That's most definitely real. We've seen that number of times.
We did a business newsroom last year from an article that you found, and I think you'll remember the percentage. I don't, but this was before COVID. Actually, might have been longer than this
It
because I
was
think
it was a long time
before
ago.
COVID.
Yeah.
What you found an article? What percentage of staff on a business admitted to not wanting to be there or admitted to goofing off while they were at work on their Facebook page or whatever? What it was a large percentage.
Yeah, it's called Disengaged Employees.
Yeah.
And so that had, I think, 65%. There's a video we did on May 24th, 2019. So yeah, this was
Oh
2 years.
wow.
This was
Almost 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, it was almost 2 years ago now. And it's called How to Handle Employee Disengagement. And it's something like 45. I can't remember now. It was either 45 or 65%. It was one of those two that the people are considered disengaged employees, meaning you're getting very little actual production out of them. And they're not actually part of the team or part of the group. So yeah, it's a massive number. I mean, yeah.
Well, and then I know we just did a newsroom that may not even be posted yet on those who are refusing to come back to work if they can't work from home.
Yeah.
And that was like 35 or 40%.
Yeah, and that was the joke, was that it was just the disengaged employees who didn't want to be there anyway, would rather work from home because they can goof off at home rather than goof off at the office. And we did put that one up, I think, a week or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the reason I'm giving a little bit of the backstory here is because right now in your company, there's a pretty good chance that there's people who are getting a paycheck that don't want to work.
Right.
They don't want to be there. And it may not have anything to you. They just don't want to work, period. They want to show up. They want to get paid. They want their benefits, their 401k, and their whatever. And they don't want to have to take responsibility. And, it's real interesting what happens when you go up to a staff member and you start to say, this week I need you to make 50 widgets. And that you start to give them some quotas and some targets to hit. And they start to push back and they start to protest. And like, well, 50 widgets are hard to make. I don't know anybody who's done 50 widgets. And then, hopefully you can say, well, when I had your job, I did 65. So I don't think, what I'm saying. So I guess the point here is I'm quite fine with you starting to put some pressure down on some of these people around you to work. And I'd be very wary of people who are pushing back. The quote is too high. I don't need to do that. Bricks are hard to sell, whatever it might be. So then that is a huge red flag that you may have somebody who's just there for a paycheck. And I was talking to a prospective client today that we were interviewing for the Adventure to Profit program. And she's talking about this employee that is chewing up all of her time and is not understanding the key responsibilities of the job after not just the second explanation, but the third explanation or the fourth explanation or the fifth explanation. And I explained to this business owner, I said, I want you to think about this now. Every time you have to re-explain it the second, the third, the fourth time, they are wasting your time because you should be on the phone selling. You should be on the phone delivering your service. And right now, whatever that paycheck is, if it's $500 a week that you're writing to that employee, that's money that they are taking away from your children, from your family, from their college fund. And it's even worse than that. You're giving them money to now have you explain to them the third, the fourth, the fifth time how to do their job. So right. I did have to talk about firing during this, because hiring, yes, we're going to talk about that, but you must recognize, you must realize, you must confront and look at it just exactly what the underachieving, underperforming, wasting time employees are costing you. And I've heard all of the excuses. Well, I hate running ads. I hate doing interviews. It's better off just to leave them there. It actually is not better off just to leave them there. Because I was explaining to this potential client here today on the phone, in the time that it takes to explain to this person the third, the fourth, or the fifth time, you could have actually done that job in half of that time and been on to the next thing, and you would have had their pay in your pocket.
Yeah.
So
I think it's kind of like, not to cut you off there, but I'm just thinking it through as you're talking. What people don't understand when it comes to hiring is that you have to fire somebody first.
Yeah.
I mean,
or
we're gonna talk about where to hire people and all that stuff, but the truth
you might be
is,
expanding.
what's that?
You might be expanding and you're hiring to expand.
Yeah, but even then, you're still gonna hire somebody and fire them because they're not the right person for the job. I mean,
you have to be prepared to do.
You have to be prepared to be able to do that, because if you're not firing somebody, then you're probably stuck with people that you don't need and you don't want. You know, I had an interesting thing, and then we'll get back on topic here, but just this last week I spoke to somebody on Friday. In fact, I need to call them back today because they said that they were going to call me and tell me what happened. But they went into this like 25-minute explanation about how these two staff members hate each other, and one's been there for 30 years and one's been there for 3 years, and they argue all the time, and it creates a lot of problems and all the stuff that's going on. And so I let the person tell me all about it and what was happening, and I said, okay, well, have you sat down with, we'll call her Susie, the long-term staff member? Have you sat down with Susie and just found out like what's going on? Like, why are they arguing? What are they upset about? Like, what's happening? It's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So how long has this been going on? It's been going on for like a year. And I bring them in together and they talk and they say that they'll work together, and then it goes out, and then, then they start yelling at each other with customers in the place and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, so Susie's been with you for 30 years, right? She's like a part of your family at this point. Yes, she's okay. So why don't you just take her to lunch and sit down and be like, hey, what is going on? Like, what's happening that's creating all this? Do you want to be here? Do you want to retire? Are you trying to get fired? I don't know. Just ask questions. But like, people are so scared about having to go. This business owner is so scared about having to hire somebody to replace one or both of these staff members that they don't even want to know what's going on, and just have their head buried in the sand for a year.
Yeah.
All this is occurring. And that creates way more problems. Personally, I would have fired both of them by now. You guys can't work together. You're gone. Both of you. I mean, that's what I would have done.
Well, and I say it all the time, is if you enjoy firing people, I think there's something wrong with you. So this is not fun. This is not fun. And even sitting down trying to handle an upset problem with the staff, that's not fun, but it's part of the job. If you're going to be a business owner, welcome to the big leagues. And so you make a very, very good point here, is before having to fire somebody, then let's talk with them. And that's the first thing that has to happen. But I guess then the next thing is you've tried, just like you're saying, well, I've talked to them. I'm with you. Fire them both.
But I mean, what I told this person was, you at least have to have a conversation.
Agreed.
And find out what's happening.
Be willing to fire them both. Okay, so now let's end that subject.
Yeah.
Right? So either you just fired somebody, you fired them both, or you're expanding and you're growing and you must hire. Now, what do you do? And so it's quite the challenge. I remember, this is not an exaggeration, I don't remember the position I was advertising for. I think it was some position in the front office. And so I put an ad in the newspaper and note, this is like in the early 90s. There were no cell phones. Oh, here. There were no cell phones. There were no computers. There was no internet. So I had to use the newspaper, and I start opening up resumes that come in, and I open up an envelope, and in spiral bound notepaper, like you tear it out of the spiral binder.
Yeah. And it's got all the stuff hanging off of it.
All the stuff's hanging off of it. A green crayon. Their name, their address, their job experience. And so it was very discouraging.
As a new business owner?
Yeah.
Just got out of college.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, well, obviously I didn't call the person in who had the spiral bound notepaper with a green crayon, but it was very discouraging to set up interviews, 30-minute appointments, go in on a Saturday. I have
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 people scheduled. Half of them don't show up. Right. So
Which is
obviously
a good thing, by the way.
that's a good thing because, I'm not going to hire them anyway. But it became very, very frustrating. And I did 2 things that I said, that's it. I'm never writing another ad.
Hmm.
And I never did. What I did from thereafter, 2 things that I want you to figure out how you can apply. I started hiring patients.
There you go.
So one day I'm like, you know what? I have fabulous patients in my practice. They come in every 6 months. They love us. We love them. We look at their name on the schedule. We get excited. Oh, they're coming in today. They always have a funny story. And so finally, whenever we needed to hire a new employee, we would just talk about it at the beginning of the day. We'd look over the patients who are coming in and say, well, I don't know what she does. I don't know what she does. And so I hired patients all the time.
Yeah.
Chairside assistants. My office manager, funnily enough, I hired while she was having her teeth cleaned. The dental hygienist takes a break. I go in, I do the exam. I'm like, hey, how's it going? No, I'm not very happy at work. And she'd been a patient, I don't know, for at least 5 years. And she was one of those like, oh, great, she's coming in today. And so that night I called her up and offered her a job. She's like, I've never worked in a dental office before. Like, don't worry about it. I already got office manager training for you to do. We'll teach you how to do the job. And I'm telling you, within 90 days, she was amazing.
Yeah.
So first of all, hire people you know.
Yep.
If you're a professional and you have a working relationship. Now, again, some people are like, oh, I would never do that. If I fire them, I'll lose the whole family. I'm like, okay, that is always a possibility. But then if I think that's a possibility, would I really want to hire them? So we have to kind of get out of the fear mode. We have to get out of the fear of firing. We have to get out of the fear of hiring. And honestly, I never fired any patient that I hired because I didn't have to. I hired the people that already liked us and we already liked them. So then anyway, you have to get over that. So number one, if you have a professional service-based practice, hire people that love you. One particular employee was so cool because she was working, Plymouth, Indiana is near Detroit. And so there are a lot of different secondary industries in northern Indiana that service Detroit. And there was a spark plug wire company factory. And this gal had 2 kids. She was working the evening shift. Her husband working day shift. They never got to see each other. And, 5 days a week. And she was saying how she'd worked in a dental office before, was thinking about getting back into it again. We hired her. And we paid her 50 cents an hour more to work 4 days a week during the day. And she thought she died and went to heaven. And so she was an amazing employee. So first of all, take a look at your clients and take a look at your friends. And again, I guess that's a little dicey because people say, oh, never hire a relative. You might have to fire them. Well, then have a conversation before you hire them. Like my brother, my niece, his daughter got married and she was engaged and they hired her fiance, who's now her husband. And my brother sat down with, his daughter and soon to be son-in-law and say, you know what, I think you're going to work out great here, but just so you know, if you screw up, I'm going to fire you. So it's just, it's like blood's only going to go so far around here. So take a look at friends and clients and friends of clients and relatives of clients. So number one, that's how I hired a ton of people. Now, number two is when I was looking for a new financial secretary, again, I'm like, I'm not running any ads. So I made 3 phone calls. I called my banker, I called my broker, and I called my insurance agent, who all have professional environments. They're going to hire professional people. And I asked, do you have anyone that's looking for a change of career? Or have you interviewed anyone recently that you didn't hire that might work for me as a financial secretary? And I got folders of resumes. I got personal recommendations from them all. And I ended up hiring a person that had interviewed with my broker. And he's like, she was awesome, but I don't even remember why it wasn't going to work out. And so I hired her. She was amazing. I sold my practice in 1993. She's still there doing that job. She turned out fabulously.
Yeah.
So anyway, you are probably going to have to go the ad route or whatever. But I'm saying even before you do that, start with other connections that you have, and start, heck, even put it out on in your Facebook group. You know?
Yeah, that's also really good. Also, another good thing is if you're a part of like a networking organization, BNI, whatever it might be,
Right.
you know, there's good networking groups, there's bad networking groups. We're part of a good group. But I've never been to, you know, I've had multiple businesses or whatever, so I've been to multiple networking events and chapters and things like that. I've never met anybody at a networking event that ever said, "Hey, I'm looking to hire somebody. Anybody you know, send them my way." The only people who do that are realtors who are trying to recruit more realtors,
Yep.
and somebody in like a financial services thing where it's like, we're trying to hire financial consultants for Northwestern Mutual or for this company or for that
Right.
company,
Yep.
you know, but their job is to recruit people. It's not, you know, that's
Right.
kind of their gig, right?
Yeah.
But I've never seen a small business owner say, "Hey, I'm looking to grow. If you know of anybody, send them my way." They just don't think with that. So that's also
Right.
another really good aspect of use the people you know and the networks that you know to get to hire new people.
And I guess you know, you have to you can't play this game of hiring at and be afraid.
Yeah.
Oh, what if I hire the wrong person and then I have to fire them, and then, you know, they'll give me a bad online review. And I'm like, whatever, you know, it's just kind of like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So first word of advice is lay it out there. Let everybody know that you're hiring. Ask your staff, do you have a friend who doesn't like their job that you think would work out well here? Let's hire their friend. What if I have to fire them? I don't know. Then before you hire your employee's friend, say, listen, if it doesn't work out, you know, I'm going to fire them. So, you know, let's just take this on with a little bit more of a spirit of play attitude, not be so serious about it, et cetera, et cetera. So you just have to have the right attitude when you're going about this.
Yeah. And again, you have to be willing to not have it work, and you have to be willing to hire the wrong person.
Yeah.
To find out what you need in somebody to hire the correct person.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's super important. I mean, you know, the famous lines are, you know, you think of sports players and athletes and stuff, and Michael Jordan says, you know, the only shot he ever missed was the one he did take, or something like that. You know,
Right.
It's like, you're going to swing and you're going to miss, and, you know, you're not going to hit the grand slam in Game 7 of the World Series every time. So, you know, you just got to keep swinging.
Exactly.
And you can't get really discouraged.
Yeah.
Yep. You can't get discouraged about it, because you still have to grow your business one way or another. And I think that also is true for people who are afraid to even hire anybody and just continue to do the job themselves, that restrict their growth. You know, that's the same type of a mentality. Like, I don't even want to try and hire somebody, so I'm just going to do it all myself.
That's right.
And then you end up.
Then you'll complain because you haven't had a vacation in 5 years, but that's on you.
Gee, I wonder why. You know, it's yeah, it is.
All right.
Like,
so at some point, you're gonna have to run an ad.
Yeah.
And these are my clients, Matt and Sonia, who have a web development company in South Africa, and they are super awesome people. If you need any web developers, we can definitely refer you to these folks. But they've been running ads because what they're looking for now is pretty highly specialized. If we're talking about having experience with Google ads, Facebook ads, web design, not everybody knows somebody who can rapidly just walk into that role. Right. So they have 7 steps that they've done here. Like I say, I just got this email. Let's see, I got it on Sunday. All right, so wanted to share successful actions and our overall hiring win in general. this is what our process looks like now. One, ads in various online job listings. A big part of our ad is that it's for a digital marketing intern position in which we will provide extensive on-the-job training. Now, they don't have in their budget, this is a growing company, they don't have in their budget something for a $75,000 a year employee, highly skilled. They're like, well, let's get somebody who's willing to learn. So they advertise for an intern. So he says, this has played a huge part in attracting qualified prospects who aren't expecting big paychecks, but really want to grow and learn. This is especially important because with digital, there's always a lot of learning. So as soon as somebody who thinks they're worth 75 or 100,000 a year says they're looking for an intern, they're like, yep, that's not me. I'm not in that category. I got my shit together. And so that's going to be some entry-level job. Okay. But then what this ad is going to bring you is entry-level people, which is what they're looking for. And they are willing to train. Now, let's see. We start to see which ad platform gets the best quality applicants and continue to use that one in the future. So they're doing their research on that. Now, every ad states their email has to have a very specific subject line. So send your CV, send your application to this email, and then they don't state what the subject line is, but I don't know. Be sure you put XYZ applicant in the subject line. Then he said, this tests their level of training right away and weeds out the ones who can't even put that in the subject line. So it says XYZ applicant and they put ABC applicant. Okay, we're not even opening the email because it said very specifically in the subject line, put XYZ applicant. Then they quickly go over the resumes and the emails. And if the role is a marketing role and it looks close, now what they're going to do, so they now look, because they got the subject line right. Now they send a generic email to any who look hopeful with the message to send us a 90-second video of themselves stating their name, their email, and something about them and why they want the job. So then the person's instructed to take their phone and do a 60 to 90 second video with this. Then when they receive the videos, they just look, did they give their name? Did they give whatever they asked for, their name, their email, and something about, so did they comply with all of that? And, you know, are they sitting there like they're on drugs with their eyes half open and slurring? I mean, so I think it's fantastic because it's sort of like an interview without having to do the interview. Yeah. And then with the ones who complied, the ones who look good, now we're going to do a Zoom meeting and bring them in. And they've done 3 hires like this, and every one of them is stellar and fantastic. So I thought that was a huge, amazing success. They totally figured it out. I thought it was a great, great idea there with the subject line and the video.
No, that's perfect, because what you're looking for is you're looking for people who can follow orders or directions or instructions and are able to think with, okay, I have to send this to this email address and put this in there. That automatically starts to weed out people who are just sending out hundreds of resumes with no real desire to want that position or to want that job.
Yep. So then another tip, once you make your decision, so let's say you make your decision on Friday, you're going to hire, you know, Carrie Sue. Well, you know, we'll call her on Monday, and you're hiring Carrie Sue because she complied with, if you follow this, she complied, she did the subject thing, her video looks nice. We want to bother Carrie Sue on the weekend. Carrie Sue's looking for a freaking job. Do her a favor, call her on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Say, hey, I want to hire you. So you mess around, fart around, you get busy on Monday, you don't call. Finally, by Wednesday, hey, Carrie Sue, I'd love to hire you. Say, wow, I really wanted to work for you, but somebody offered me a job on Saturday and I started on Sunday. Gee.
Yeah.
And so being slow on the trigger and messing around with the hiring process is another huge mistake. The best people are going to, A, get the fastest offers, and B, take them.
Yep.
When you have somebody you want to hire, you're ready to pull the trigger, don't mess around. All right. Then the next thing, so now you've hired them and they're there. All right. Give them some basic beginner task on the job, answering the phone, I don't know, opening the mail, whatever. Give them some basic task. And I want to tell you a quick story because my niece, Stephanie, was training as an office manager in a dental office. And she had hired an accounts manager who had made it through whatever their hiring process was. And so she sat down first day on the job training, and the person was going to have to open the mail, take the insurance checks, log it into the proper account, make out the deposit ticket, etc. And so Stephanie sat there and showed this person, well, here's the insurance check. This is the name. You go here, you do this, you do that. Any questions? No. Okay, now you show me how to do it. And so after about 20 minutes with correction from Stephanie, okay, no, not that. This is what that. So after 20 minutes, Stephanie's still having to tell her how to do the very, very first basic thing. She let her go.
Yeah.
So the person on their first day didn't make it through the first 30 minutes because Stephanie knew that this is just going to be a mess. By the end of the day, Stephanie would have been better off doing it herself. Now, what's good about that is you haven't waited 2 weeks. You haven't waited 90 days, gotten all frustrated. What's good about that is you had it narrowed down to the final three anyway. The one that you thought was going to make it didn't make it. So call your second choice.
Yeah.
In and out. Stephanie said if somebody was going to get fired, they were going to get fired in the first 2 weeks. If they made it 2 weeks, they're probably going to be with the company for 15 years.
Right.
So what they wanted to do is just get people in, give them a simple task, just like Matt and Sonia. This is a simple task. Put this in the subject line and then make a video that states your name, your email address, and why you want the job. If you cannot do that, you don't qualify.
So and another thing that you can do, if you're like a one-man band and you're trying to hire your first employee, don't do what I'm about to tell you. But if you're a big growing business and you're trying to expand and you've got two really good applicants, hire them both. Yep. Because one of them is going to do really, really good for the job that you wanted to hire them for. The other one might flake out. Or if they're both really, really good, like you thought they were, you'll find something for the other one to do. Yep. So don't be afraid of, doing that.
Yeah. And the first thought is, well, I can't afford to hire two people at the same time. And like, well, first of all, one of them probably isn't going to show up on Monday.
Could be.
Or one of them is going to call in on Wednesday and say, this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. So the odds are with you that you're not going to have both people by Friday anyway. Mm-hmm. But like Neil said, even if you do have, you're like, oh my gosh, these two people are amazing. This one is going to do this, and this one is going to do this. And I just freed myself up for that. And so hire them both by all means and give them basic tasks that can peel the work off of you so that now you're free to go market, go sell, go to the network meeting, etc.
And again, that's if you have an expanding company that's doing well. If you're trying to hire your first employee ever, then don't hire two because you're probably not ready for that in that case.
Right.
But because you'll mess it up, not they will mess it up. You, the business owner, will mess things up. But just hire them both because either one's not going to work or they both do.
And as far as training goes, this is kind of like my final tip. There is so much automation now that the next time you have a new employee and you're showing them how to do something basic, so hand your cell phone to somebody and say, record this for me. Grab another employee. I don't care. Grab somebody in off the street and say, I'll give you $5 to take a 10-minute video here while I tell this person how to do it. Because what you accomplish so many things that way. First of all, you've told the person now how to do it and it's recorded. If they mess up, you don't have to go tell them again. Just say, go watch the video that we made today when I was telling you, you messed this up. So watch the video and come back and tell me what you did wrong while you're off working. You're not explaining it to them for the second time. They're watching you explain it to them for the first time. So they messed up. So you can explain to them again or just say, okay, I get it. Watch the video and then come back and tell me what you did wrong here. Then if they don't make it till lunch, Okay, fine. You now have a video for the next person and it's 10 minutes. And so you say, watch this. I'm going to be back in 10 minutes. So now you have automation to help you. Zoom is really awesome because you can start a Zoom call and hit the record button and screen share. You can show them the software, click, follow my cursor, follow the arrow. This is like how you're going to set up all of your training, and it's all going to be done on video. You can have things in writing, which is fine, but then you can have a folder for each particular job on the computer, and it works as training and it works on quality control. If they mess something up, you say, go watch this again. Now, if you don't have a video on something, you say, oh, you're ready for this yet? Now you're ready for this. So I'm going to show you how. Then just take your phone, give it to somebody and have them record you. And so you're doing this all the time anyway. There's no need to continue to repeat all of these functions again and again, where you can have somebody just really literally with an iPhone or whatever, just like record the training process. That acts as a training video to correct the person who made the error. And it acts as a training video if this particular person that you're training doesn't make it. So, so Jermone, I was advised.
Jermone says people and processes are essential, which is absolutely correct. And for the processes part, it's up to the business owner to lay out what the processes are that people need to follow. So if you hire somebody to do something for you that you don't know how to do, you're kind of screwed. And that's another hiring error that I see is people go, oh, well, I can't live without this person because they're the only one who knows how to do X, Y, and Z. And they're the
only ones I've heard of before. They're the only ones that have the passwords into the software.
Well, that's a whole nother form of idiocy that we won't get into. But if you go, oh my gosh, I'm this solo entrepreneur and I'm totally effed and I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to hire this person and they're going to come work for me and they're going to put my systems in place for me, you are screwed. I very rarely ever see that happen successfully.
Have it work.
I have seen it work. And then the downside, I met this chiropractor once who was this very like unassuming person. And I found out that like 5 years earlier, he had been like just killing it as a chiropractor. And I'm like, are you sure? You know? And what had happened was he had hired somebody who just ran everything for him. And all he did was show up and adjust people. And for several years was just killing it. And then they left. I don't remember if they had to move
Mm-hmm.
or something, but they left. And then the practice just, anchored
with them.
Anchored back to where it had been always before that. But then you've got other problems on hand. So, you've got bigger spaces and more overhead and all this other stuff because you had this big business and now you're screwed. So never hire somebody that can only do one thing that you don't know how to do. Like, as far as like, this process or how this works or because otherwise you'll find yourself in trouble that way.
And if they do, maybe they need a particular certificate that you don't have, then you better video everything that they do. You better have that process recorded or whatever. I don't know. There's some sort of particular license that they have or whatever. You better get certified for that license. Your wife better get certified for that license, whatever. I mean, you need to have a backup plan. So Neil,
well, like if I owned an auto body shop, okay, I obviously don't know how to do any of this stuff. But I would have to hire mechanics to come and work for me. That's fine because I have to hire somebody to work for me. But I can't hire, in the case of this chiropractor, I can't hire an office manager to fix my whole life for me so that all I have to do is show up and just adjust people and then leave, and they handle the payroll and the marketing and they do everything, because that's when you get screwed. And that's kind of what I mean in that regard, obviously, is that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jermone has a couple other comments here.
Yeah, he says you won't be able to scale and grow if you can't abdicate some of the responsibilities. If you can't, be okay with being self-employed instead of business owner. That's absolutely correct. A business leader, the CEO of a company is not the person fixing the cars. We'll go back to my auto body shop. They're there organizing and streamlining and training the employees on what to do. The CEO of Ford Motors isn't down there building the cars on the assembly line, but they have to know how it works so that they can obviously adjudicate things and whatever. But that's where you have to know what's happening. And not to go too far off on a tangent, but I always laugh at that show Undercover Boss. It's not really a show that I watch a lot of, but it's always funny how little the CEOs of these giant organizations actually understand when they're like, well, why do we do it this way? And they're like, I don't know. It's just the way I was told how to do it. And they're like, really? People do it this way? Like here they are, the CEO of this big company, but they've gotten so far out of touch that they don't even understand what people are doing underneath them. And then they're making these policies and changes of like, we're going to do this. And then the workers are like, yeah, some idiot decided to do it this way. And then they're like, I'm that idiot. You know, that cracks me up about that show.
Right.
But they're not being a CEO.
No.
And that's the thing, is that you will just be self-employed if you can't actually direct and guide people in what to do.
Yep. And I just want to, I know we're getting near the end here, but I just want to make a final comment that as the owner of this business, you're responsible for what now is being referred to as the company culture.
Mm-hmm.
So like, whether people show up on time, attitude on the job, like you're responsible for that. And so you may have your quote unquote superstar employee, but they just are destroying the culture. They stand around the water cooler. They don't work. They start rumors. They cause upset, but then they'll turn around and maybe make a great sale. And like, oh my gosh, I can't live without that person. But then, that happens once a month. And, once a quarter, you think about firing them. And so, you have to take a look. Yeah, you do have people that perform, and we're not going to name names, but they're athletes who are very, very good, who have proven that they are not team builders, they are team destroyers. And so they aren't the type of personality that an owner or a coach would want on their team. And so that's your responsibility too. Your responsibility for the culture of the company, and you can have your top performers and your top producers, but they're going to have to be willing to work as a team and help build the team attitude and the team morale and not destroy it. So, I've had to dismiss people who were pretty good at their job, but they just created too much turmoil. And so, interestingly enough, I had to do that once in my dental practice, and I fired an ace staff member, and the very, very next month with temporaries, we did 25% higher than we had ever done before.
Yeah.
So I've lived all of this. I've experienced everything. So watch this more than once as needed. And I think this we wanted tonight to just kind of give you an overview of hiring. It's a big, big issue in small business. And we have found some ways to kind of like weave our way through this minefield. I wanted to share that with you tonight. Those of you who are watching this recorded, by all means, enter some comments and let us know what you think. We can take up any particular part of this again or some tangent. By all means, comment, and we'll make it another live stream.
And for everybody that's watching live right now, if you could please hit that like button, hit the thumbs up. That helps a lot with getting the more comments and likes that you get on a video, the more it gets recommended to other people and that kind of thing. And it also lets us know that we're really good and we have really big egos that we need to feed. And every like I get, I feel a little bit better about myself. Now, one thing I will say about Jermone, he says, I was told there's no such thing as a bad employee, only bad bosses. He says, sounds wise to me, LOL. Now, I think there's two folds to that. There are definitely bad employees, but you're only a bad boss if you don't fire them or fix the problem and let them take over what's going on. That's when you become a bad boss. There's nothing wrong with hiring the wrong person. It's keeping somebody around that you know shouldn't be there. That's when you have a problem. And I can't tell you how many times in all of my years of public speaking where, you know, I meet people all the time who are like, oh yeah, you know, this person's not a good employee, whatever, but you know, whatever, it is what it is. And like, how long have they worked for you? Oh, 5 years. Okay. When did you know that they weren't really the right person? Oh, within the first 2 weeks. Okay. So you've had somebody working for you for 5 years that you knew shouldn't be there just because you didn't want to hire somebody else. You're pretty screwed at that point. And that honestly tells me a lot about the person and whether or not I can help them, because they let these problems linger for 5 years and don't care. So anyway.
Well, just to end off on that thought, the 80-20 rule definitely applies. So yeah, 20% of the bosses are really going to be completely awful bosses.
Yeah.
But 20% of the employees also have that potential to be really awful employees.
Yeah.
And show up, don't work. I had a patient once, again, we were near South Bend, and he was really proud. He worked, I don't remember, he worked at some large plant that serviced Detroit, and he and his buddy were in charge of maintenance, and they had figured out how they could sleep for 4 hours of their 8-hour shift. One just covered for the other, and they were really proud of that. Well, obviously, somebody needed fired because it was only a one-person job. If the whole job could get done,
somebody could sleep for 4 hours.
If somebody could sleep for 4 hours. So yeah, that's a bad employee. So yeah, there are bad employees. It's not the majority by any stretch. It's a smaller percentage. So yeah, there are people that are going to need to be dismissed, and that's kind of rolling back around to how we started. You just have to be willing to do it, and then slog your way through the hiring process and figure it out for yourself. So I hope some of the tips that we gave you tonight were helpful.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching. Every Monday, 7 o'clock, we do a live stream. So that's 7 p.m. Eastern time. We have asked people if they have you know, sort of like a, hey, what's your opinion on what time? You know, Monday at 7 kind of works for us. So that's why we do it. But, you know, if you guys think that there's a better time that might work for you or whatever, if you miss the live stream, watch the recorded version while you're driving in your car or whatever, listen to it kind of like a podcast or whatever. But, and again, next Wednesday on the 17th, we are going to start our subscriber giveaway for the YouTube channel. So be sure you tune in next Wednesday to find out how you could win a copy of Fun at Work, Profit First, 2 online training courses, and half an hour with us to talk business and talk shop. So there'll be a giveaway for that on next Wednesday. So be sure you go to the YouTube channel and watch that video, hit the subscribe and the bell so that when that video does come up, you're first in line for the giveaway that we're doing. So thank you all very much. Jermone, thank you very much for your comments tonight. You were awesome. We'll see you all next Monday.
And Mel, thank you. Mel Rock.
You're welcome too.
You're welcome, man. All right.
Bye.
Very good. Good night.